There has been a lot of life lately that has been about conflict, about having to put on your armor and head into the fray. This is because of the lineup of planets in the warrior sign of Aries. The benefits of this warrior-like energy are that you've been more ready to step out of your comfort zone and initiate things, and more ready to stand up for yourself. But it can be tiring to push forward all the time, especially when we have resistance, which we do have with Saturn in Aries. This week brings a welcome counter energy, a relief in the form of the full moon in Libra. Libra is diplomatic and courteous and enjoys negotiating to find the middle ground. You will experience social niceties, pleasant and respectful interactions, and even generosity. Compliments will be given and received. The feisty Aries season is not over, far from over, but the full moon in the sign of Libra will bring a welcome break. It will help us remember about peaceful partnership, beneficial social interactions, pleasure, and beauty. Hello everybody and welcome to this video. My name is Fiona of Sun and Moon Calendar, and in this video I'm going to talk about the astrological transits that are occurring and affecting our lives for the week beginning Sunday the 29th of March going into the first week of April. In the middle of that week we have a full moon in the sign of Libra, and after I've talked about the daily transits one by one, I'm going to go more in depth about that full moon, look at the chart, talk about the Libra energy and the Aries energy, which is opposite where the sun is, and then I'm going to do an all signs breakdown so that you can look more specifically at about what parts of your astrological chart and your life and that will be affecting that full moon, which is a culmination point. It's a peak moment, and it's a really good counter energy to all those planets in Aries that we have at the moment, making things quite like I said in the intro, a lot of conflict, a fighting energy, and also an energy of initiation, new starts, stepping off the cliff into the unknown as we make these new starts. Libra is going to be bringing a little bit more balance and harmony to counteract that, and that is going to be nice this week. To introduce myself a little bit more, I am based in New Zealand and I make calendars like this one for New Zealand or Aotearoa and like this one for Australia, but this astrology is for the whole world because these astrological transits affect us all, and the only difference is they are at different times of the day depending on where you are in the world. So let's get into it. I'm going to start by talking about an overview of the energy of this week. This is all about the week beginning Sunday the 29th of March or Monday the 30th of March, depending on where you are in the world. And this week brings a culmination moment, a peak point with the moon in the sign of Libra opposite the sun in Aries. So the full moon is always about this opposition, and it is a peak moment, a culmination point. It can be the high point, the climax of something, and it can therefore herald the beginning of the end of something or the ending point of something because it's reached its fullest moment. The moon is all by itself on the opposite side of the chart from most of the other planets, especially with the energy building up in the sign of Aries with the sun there. Okay, Libra is going to be reminding us about diplomacy and about balance and fairness and the harmonious aspects of life, including beauty, including pleasure in some ways, especially because the ruler of the moon, Venus, is in the sign of Taurus. Another point that I've made here in this overview of the week is this question: what are your true values? And I've mentioned that because Venus has just moved into the sign of Taurus, which is a sign that encourages us to think about what we really value, especially in terms of material wealth or material abundance. What are the priorities of our life? And Venus is going to be making a square to Pluto, and Pluto in the sign of Aquarius encourages us to be authentic and truthful about what we value. So I'll talk about that as we go through the transits of the week and talk about the full moon. So here we have a page from the calendar. This is showing the Pisces lunar month. Actually, this one is the Australian calendar, which is the calendar up there, showing the bottlenose dolphin. And you can see last week we had the end of Mercury retrograde, and just looking at the grid part of the month, we are on the week beginning the 30th of March, so I've circled that there in purple. Okay, and we're in the lunar month of Pisces because this month started from the new moon in Pisces, but very shortly after that, the sun moved into the sign of Aries. That is the equinox, the autumn equinox if you're in the southern hemisphere, the spring equinox if you are in the northern hemisphere. A lovely time where we have our days of equal lengths, whether you're in the southern or the northern hemispheres, with the sun right over the equator. We're just past that now into the second week after that. Mercury is well and truly going forward. In fact, all the planets are moving forward at the moment, so it's certainly a time of initiating and building into the future. Okay, so here is that week with the transits laid out one by one. There are only 4 transits that I'm going to talk about this week. On Monday the 30th or Tuesday the 31st, Venus enters the sign of Taurus. And then on Wednesday the 1st or Thursday the 2nd of April, we have the full moon in Libra, and this is the transit that I'm going to focus on in this video and do the all signs breakdown about. And then on Friday the 3rd and Saturday the 4th, we have 2 things going on. We have an exact trine with Mercury and Jupiter. That is beneficial, and I'll be talking about that as part of the full moon. And we have Venus square Pluto. I'll be talking about that as well. So you can see there's lots of Venus energy there, with Venus doing these transits, but also Venus being the ruler of the full moon in Libra. And just before I go through this week's transits, to remind you about this one that came exact on Saturday the 28th or Sunday the 29th of March, the weekend that this video comes out, that exact sextile between slow-moving Saturn and very, very slow-moving Pluto. You can look at my video from last week if you want to learn more about that transit. It is part of the mini grand trine and the incredible lineups and changes that the outer planets, the slow-moving planets, are bringing to the world. And as we can see all around us, the world is changing, and these 2 are part of it. So you can look at last week's video for more about that. Okay, this week's transits. So we're going to start by talking about Venus moving into the sign of Taurus, the sign of sensual pleasures, and I would say gardening, the earth. So Taurus is about resources and abundance and earth's gifts and sensual pleasures, and Venus is an absolutely beautiful goddess in the sign of Taurus. She is all about money and abundance and luxury items, and we're talking material luxury items here. Okay, so that happens on Tuesday the 30th of March or Wednesday the 31st of March. And this is what I said about it in the calendar. Beauty, comfort, earthly delights are enhanced. And we have that until the 24th of April. And this is a very nice placement for Venus with the full moon in Libra. Okay, and then we're going on now to talk very briefly about the full moon in Libra, because I'll talk about it more later in the video. Okay, so that full moon in Libra, it happens with the moon opposite the sun, and it's at 12 degrees and 20 minutes of Libra. And you can see on the screen there the exact time. So it's in the evening of the 1st of April for USA and anywhere in that area. London, it's very, very early in the morning on the 2nd of April, and in Australia and New Zealand, Aotearoa, it is in the afternoon of Thursday the 2nd. So the full moon, culmination point, higher energy, higher emotions, sensitivities, and more likely to feel like partying and going out and getting into the world. Okay, and now looking at Mercury trine Jupiter on Friday the 3rd or Saturday the 4th of April. Mercury is the planet of communication and planning, thinking, analysis, organization, life admin in some ways, and very much like an advisor to the sun. It's very, very close to the sun, of course, the closest planet to the sun, and it advises the sun. It brings communications to the sun. It's such a communicator. Also, trade and exchange, writing and speaking, and messages and social media. And with the trine to Jupiter, that is enhancing all of our writing, our communication, our messages. Jupiter is a benefic, so there's more generosity with our words, and perhaps this will be bringing in some of those compliments that I mentioned in the introduction, and support and encouragement through our words towards others. So that is really nice, and it's playing into the full moon. This is what I said in the calendar. Lucky conversations about travel and higher learning and truth. These are all Jupiter things, all right? So Jupiter loves travel and exploring and extending the horizons and adventure. And Jupiter is also a great believer in spiritual truth and benevolence and generosity. So Mercury, with its ability to communicate, will be supporting that. All right, and then looking now at Venus square to Pluto. So Pluto helps us get into the very deep, deep down, the psychological layers underneath, wherever you have Pluto in your chart. It's an area of very deep motivation and also an area of very deep fear, especially looking at whatever house it's in for you. Pluto goes through each sign. It takes over a decade, like it's going to be in Aquarius for 20 years, for example. So it moves very slowly, but for every person, it's in a different house. Okay, when Venus is square to Pluto, this could bring out a need, a requirement to look very deeply into your motivations, especially about love and money and resources and self and other, this question of relationship, because Venus is about relationship and it's also about resources and wealth. Okay, and a square is not easy, so there could be some challenging feelings about this. And what I wrote in the calendar about it, you can see there, power issues could be coming up in relationship, jealousy or envy. And there is potential for transformation because Pluto, it kind of wrings us out and turns us inside out and brings us into crises so that we can understand more about our fears and our motivations. This will only last 1 or 2 days, but it is playing into the full moon. So there could be something that comes up that feels like a scary, desperate crisis on the psychological level with the Venus-Pluto square. And so those are the transits for the week. Not so many, but plenty to come. Here are the upcoming events. I think around about the 9th or 10th of April, Mars will move into the sign of Aries and Mercury will be going through Aries as well. Both of those are in Pisces at the time I'm recording this. So Mars and Mercury will be conjunct Neptune and then Saturn and going through Aries, and this is going to be adding to a lot of that feisty, warrior-like fighting energy that's going on. On the positive side, a lot about moving forward and setting out into new territory, taking new initiatives, pioneering. So we'll try and work with the positive side of those. And then on the 17th or 18th of April, we've got the new moon in the sign of Aries. And the 25th, 26th of April, an exciting moment when Uranus, which takes 84 years to go around the zodiac, moves into the sign of Gemini. So now I'm going to talk about the full moon in the sign of Libra. The full moon, like I said before, is when the moon is exactly opposite to the sun, and it's reflecting back the light of the sun. It is fully lit up, okay? And let's talk about Libra. Okay, so it's in the sign of Libra, and Libra, like I said, it's opposite the sign of Aries. Aries is about the self, the me first, desire. What do I want? Go out and get what I want. Libra is about partnership, okay? And so it's kind of perfect with the sun and moon opposite each other, because Libra is about looking opposite, looking across the table at the other person and working out what they need, what you need, and trying to find a way to make it work for everyone. People say that Libra is an indecisive sign, and yes, it can take a long time for a Libra person or somebody using Libra energy to make a decision, but it's because they are, and I would include myself with this, I am a Libra sun, we are trying to take everything into consideration, considering all the contextual factors so that the decision is very sound and ideally a win-win for everybody. So there's this wonderful balance with Libra and a desire for harmony and saying things that help with that, the diplomacy, the talking, especially in a one-to-one situation. Okay, partnership, working in partnership, and where again you're both benefiting from the partnership. Okay, the challenge for Libra is like I said, it can take a long time to make a decision. Sometimes you don't have time to research all the factors involved and to consider them all in a considered way. Sometimes you don't have time. You just have to decide. And Libra doesn't like to be too quick. They like to make sound decisions. So indecisiveness. But the other challenge for Libra is giving away too much of themselves, like considering the other person so much when that other person might not be considering you as much. So we need to remember to look after ourselves when you're in that Libra energy. So about the full moon again. All right, so a full moon is a full culminating point with any of these Libra energies, something to do with balance and partnership, diplomacy, discussion, especially one-to-one discussion. It could be a peak point in a partnership. And especially if you've got any planets or important points like your ascendant or your MC or your IC or your descendant around 12 degrees of Libra, 12 or 13 degrees of Libra, this could be a really significant moment for you. I have my sign ruler there and I have my Mercury there, so I'm interested to see what comes with this full moon in Libra for me. Another aspect about Libra is that it is very much about aesthetics and beauty, and I chose that image there to represent Libra, of that very symmetrical and refined, civilized structure, that building there with the beautiful decorations is very classic and civilized. So there's a great aesthetic sense with Libra, and it's usually a great respect for more refined and civilized, sophisticated kind of arts. And so with this full moon, we're bringing out this Libra energy. It's going to help us through some of this time of that warrior fighting energy with all the planets in Aries. And we'll look at the charts shortly so you can see that. The moon is also square to Jupiter, and so I've said in there, you can just see at the bottom there, I hope it shows up, there's an expansiveness and a generosity with this full moon, and we just have to remember not to overdo that side of it. Don't go too far because the square can make us go a little bit too far. So I'll talk about that in the chart and also in the sign-by-sign breakdown. So here's the chart of the full moon from AstroSeek, is where I got this chart. Okay, so here you can see the moon at 12 degrees of Libra, and on the opposite side of the chart, and the red line is showing the opposition, is the sun at 12 degrees of Aries. And just at the bottom of the chart there, you can see Jupiter at 15 degrees, nearly 16 degrees. So it's not exact because the moon is at 12 degrees, so there's nearly 4 degrees difference, maybe 3.5. But close enough. That is a square, okay? That is a T-square between them. So there is some challenge there. The sun is pulling one way, the moon is pulling the opposite way, and Jupiter's pulling a different way again. And it is actually in the sign of Cancer. It's exalted there, so that's pretty awesome. And the ruler of the full moon is Venus, which is in its domicile. It's quite at home in the sign of Taurus. So that is all helpful. However, a square aspect, even with a benefic like Jupiter, is just, there's some bit of tension there. And I think with that Jupiter, there's this energy of don't overdo it. Don't get too carried away with whatever it is. But Jupiter in the sign of Cancer is reminding us about home comforts, emotional safety, emotional sensitivity. So perhaps we go a little far with this, but mostly it's okay because it is Jupiter. And there's the ruler of the full moon. So Libra is ruled by Venus, and this is where Venus is lovely with the beauty and lovely with relationships and one-on-one partnerships and diplomacy and all of that. And the other home for Venus, as well as Libra, is Taurus, and Venus has just newly moved into Taurus. It's only at 3 degrees of Taurus, and so it's very at home with the beautiful earthly delights of Taurus. So that is very nice. So a challenging aspect of this is that Venus will be square to Pluto. So Pluto's up here just a couple of days after the full moon. And like I said when I talked about the weekly transits, that could bring some kind of challenge, especially at a deep psychological level. Where we do need to face up to some fears that we have, and these might be fears that have plagued us throughout our lives, some manifestation of those kind of fears, but also deep motivations. So Pluto can help us understand our deeper underlying will and what we really desire. And with Venus and Taurus, which is also all about what we want and desire, this could be helpful, though with some challenge with the square. And so that could come out in the wash with the full moon and all the full moon is always emotional, and the moon is the ruler of Cancer, which is very, very emotional, and Jupiter is in Cancer. So there could be a lot of emotion with this full moon, even though there's some really kind of supportive, helpful aspects with it. Okay. At the same time as the full moon, we have this lovely trine just about to happen between Mercury and Jupiter, and I talked about that in the weekly transits, but it's playing into the full moon in terms of encouraging some expression or communication, writing, speaking, teaching, learning, messages that help us express probably some of these emotions that are coming out. And Mercury, with that trine to Jupiter, playing in with the full moon, could be helping us to express and communicate generosity, encouragement, helping people to be more courageous, as well as the diplomacy and the negotiation and the discussion. So that could be very helpful with this full moon. And there you can see also that the Sun is still pretty close to Saturn and Neptune, which had their recent epic conjunction at the end of February at 0 degrees of Aries. Saturn has pulled away from Neptune now. It's actually moving pretty fast. It's nearly up to 6 degrees of Aries. That seems incredible. And even Neptune's moving quite fast. It's already at 2 degrees of Aries. They are separating, but they are still important and playing out, and all part of the mini grand trine between Saturn and Neptune. And you can see there Pluto and Saturn are still in that sextile, and there is a kind of fuller image of the mini grand trine, which I show every week, I think. Hopefully you guys aren't too bored of it, but this is affecting us over 3 years, and it's really bringing about these incredible changes to the world. And I think I heard one astrologer saying it's not been seen since the end of the Bronze Age and the beginning of the Iron Age that there's been a lineup like this, like such incredible change, technology, changing the world. That's Pluto in Aquarius and Uranus and Saturn and Neptune in their conjunction. So always with the full moon, there's a culmination point, a peak moment, and perhaps an ending. The light of the moon can also reveal things that were not obvious before, not quite to the same extent as an eclipse, but always the full moon can still pack quite a punch, it has an impact. You might also feel more like going out and partying, and there's heightened emotion, heightened energy with the full moon. So in the all signs breakdown, I'm going to talk about where in your chart you might have this energy, this culmination point in partnership or diplomacy or social connection, and then with a Jupiter square, where there is this energy of expansiveness and generosity, and a reminder not to overdo that too much. If you are Libra, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Libra Rising, on Wednesday the 1st or Thursday the 2nd of April, there's a full moon at 12 degrees of Libra. That is you, Libra. This is the full moon and your sign putting the spotlight on you. And all the other planets, most of the other planets are on the other side of the chart kind of looking at you. And at the same time, you've got Jupiter in your 10th house of career. So that's also lighting up your career, encouraging opportunities and expansion. And that's been over most of a year, and that will be until June. So that's pretty cool. And it's square to the full moon, which could bring a little bit of an energy of overdoing it with your career. Perhaps like maybe you receive a promotion or something, and that puts the spotlight on you, but maybe you just need to remember to keep your feet on the ground and not get too heady and carried away with that exciting energy of the attention and the promotion. That could be one example. But mostly, Libra, you get one full moon in your life a year, and this is it for 2026. This is a moment when you're really like at a full point with something with your life, like your whole identity and the part that you play in the world. And especially if you've got your sun or moon or your ascendant point near to 12 degrees, this is especially going to be a culmination point, a climactic moment, and there could be something revealed about you. For yourself, that you realize about yourself or about your life with it. The moon can bring about emotions, and especially with that Cancer energy, with Jupiter in the sign of Cancer, there could be like more sensitivity and emotion around, and also the Venus square to Pluto. However, mostly this moon is pretty supported, so I don't think there'll be too many dark feelings coming up. But if there is, just work through them as you need to, and the world will be noticing you, and I think there could be feelings of generosity towards you. I really think you're an important energy where if you've got strong Libra in your chart, and if you are Sun, Moon, or Rising Libra, you have a lot of really harmonious energy, peaceful energy, the ability to be diplomatic and negotiate and honor partnership and fairness and justice. That is just so important in the world at the moment, Libra. So please, please bring those gifts to the world where you can, where you see conflict or you feel conflict bubbling up, to try and help with that diplomatic, harmonious, peaceful energy and the sweet words that that can come out of your mouth, that can really help people to just come back into the fold and they don't have to fight so much. That's what I hope, Libra. So all the best for that. Please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video, and enjoy being in the fullness of yourself, Libra. If you are Scorpio, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Scorpio Rising, on Wednesday the 1st or Thursday the 2nd of April, there is a full moon at 12 degrees in the sign of Libra. Scorpio, that is your 12th house. The 12th house is an area of life that is hidden from the world. This could be the part of your life where you come home and flop on the couch and eat something that maybe not be that healthy, some snack. It's a part of life where you are escaping. Okay, it could be an area of retreat, or it could be just that there's parts of your life where you're involved in things that the rest of the world doesn't really see you doing. So it could be even a job that you have that's kind of hidden from the world a little bit, or a place that you go, perhaps visiting someone in a care home or hospital or prison, or work that you do or things that you do at a retreat center. Okay, so something about that. The 12th house can be like where we separate from the world, we kind of end things. It's a house of endings. And by separating from the world, it could be like almost separating from your body. It's where you can kind of see yourself as connected to everything that is in the whole world. It's like your connection to the whole universe. And in that way, it can be quite spiritual. It's like when you're looking up at the stars and you see the magnificence and vastness of the heavens and the earth all around you and the night sky, and you realize how little and insignificant one can be in the world. That's a kind of feeling of the 12th house, that sort of connection with everything and also the minute aspect of your body in the world. Okay, all right, so that was maybe going a little bit deep. The 12th house can also be about where we escape too much and get into overwork, over scrolling, addictions, because we're trying to escape from reality in some ways. And it also can be a house of foreign travel or connections with very, very far away places, distant lands, because of that separation from your normal life. Okay, so there's some kind of full moment or culmination point in that 12th house, or an ending. Perhaps this is the completion of a spiritual project. You finish reading a text that is esoteric and helping you understand about your place in the universe. It could be the ending of some kind of connection with someone from overseas, or with somebody in a hospital or care home, perhaps the end of some hospital visits. Okay. Jupiter is in the ninth house at the same time, and that is really expanding your willingness to travel and your opportunity to travel. And so that could also play in with this 12th house energy of faraway places. And the ninth house can also be about esoteric matters, belief systems, the learning about the higher meaning of life, the philosophy of life, trying to understand how life works, and that can go into spiritual or religious rules and principles and tenets and guidelines and systems of belief. So there's a lot here about travel and spirituality and the different ways that we can look at that. So, with the Jupiter energy, there could be a risk of overdoing it, overdoing that desire to travel, or traveling too much, or spending too much time um, away from home, and going off on adventures instead of being at home, or going too much into an area of spirituality and perhaps not keeping grounded. So take care of that. But mostly, these are so supportive of each other, the ninth and the 12th house. Okay. Um, Perhaps you spend too much time learning and studying about a belief system, and it takes away from being, for just sort of feeling out that belief system or feeling out the spirituality. So maybe go for the feels a little bit more and less in the head to some degree. But mostly there's some kind of culmination point in that house of far off places, also places that are close by, but how you escape from the world and how you're kind of separate from the world in your own world in a way. And that could be quite lovely. And after that, next time there's a full moon, that will be in your sign, Scorpio. So then the spotlight will be on you. So all the best for that. And please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Sagittarius Sun, Moon or Rising, but especially Sagittarius Rising, on Wednesday the 1st or Thursday the 2nd of April, there is a full moon at 12 degrees of Libra in your 11th house of your friendship groups or organizations of people that you belong to. This is also the house of your long-term goals, so perhaps you reach a culmination point in achieving a long-term goal or a step along that process towards a long-term goal. It's also a house of rewards from work. Perhaps there could be some kind of promotion or a raise of your status or recognition in the workplace that benefits you in some way, perhaps even financially. So that's pretty cool, Sagittarius. And so, yeah, there's some kind of culmination point or full point with any of these. At the same time, Jupiter is in your 8th house, and so that is bringing expansion to your partner's money or investments or inheritances or taxes. Or savings that you have for your retirement, like large amounts of money that have something to do with you, but you don't have daily access to this money. The 8th house can also be about your deep underlying psychological layers, and Jupiter in there is expanding that it has been for a whole year until June this year when it moves into the sign of Leo. But Jupiter is square to the full moon, and it's adding optimism and generosity to that stuff going on with your groups of friends, that culmination point there. This could be a really good time for a party with your friends or some kind of recognition of that long-term goal and what you've achieved there, and perhaps if you have achieved a step along the way towards something long-term or some kind of reward from work, it could be a good time to go out to dinner and celebrate, have a glass of bubbly, something like that. And I'm just going to look about okay, so all right, wrote some little examples. So because Jupiter is square to the full moon, mostly it's really supportive because Jupiter is a benefic, the great benefic, but the square can mean that there's a tendency to overdo it. All right, so perhaps you're focusing so much on your friends and all that, and you're talking all about occult matters, or you're talking about your partner's money, and maybe just talk too much about those topics. The 8th house can also be about esoteric topics, going down into deep underlying psychological layers and occult things like divination practices and trying to understand the underlying things behind things. Maybe you just talk a little bit too much about that with your friends, or maybe because of these rewards from work, you decide to just maybe put too much money into your retirement savings, like maybe you set the percentage that goes in each week a little bit too high because you're just thinking about that a little bit too much. In New Zealand, we have the Kiwi Saver system, and maybe you just put that percentage a little bit high. So just don't overdo it with those large amounts of money and the focus on that. But mostly there's a real feeling of generosity with this, and I think a really good time to connect with your friends and have fun with them with this full moon. So all the best for that, Sagittarius. Please like, comment or subscribe if you like this video, and enjoy the fun. If you are Capricorn, Sun, Moon or Rising, but especially Capricorn Rising, on Wednesday the 1st or Thursday the 2nd of April, there's a full moon in Libra at 12 degrees, and this is your 10th house of career, Capricorn. So there's some kind of culmination point, and this could be bringing about some area of partnership in your career, and this could be a celebration of an achievement in your career, perhaps the end of a project, and hopefully that's been successful. And I think that that is likely because this full moon is pretty well supported, and there could be some social connection and celebration of partnership with that. Jupiter is in your 7th house of partnership, so that's even more energy towards partnership, and that could be bringing expansion and generosity, new opportunities through connecting with somebody. Just take care not to maybe go too far down that. Remember, perhaps retain some independence in your career, and don't get too over identified with your partner, because the square aspect might make us just get a little bit carried away with that. Um, like, for example, don't do a whole career move for the sake of that partner. Remember about what you need for yourself as well. But mostly, this is a really neat time. You get one full moon in your career house every year, Capricorn, and I hope this is a good one for you. Venus, the ruler of the moon, is exalted in your fifth house of fun and romance and children. And so, or it's not exalted, it's actually in its domicile, it's at home. So that's going to be really nice for you over the next few weeks as well. So all the best for that, Capricorn, and please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Aquarius, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Aquarius Rising, on Wednesday the 1st or Thursday the 2nd of April, there's a full moon at 12 degrees of Libra, and that is in your 9th house, Aquarius. This is your house of travel and connections with cultures from overseas or from far away, and it's also a house of exploring the meaning of life and the philosophy of life, and perhaps your belief systems like religion, even, or a set of spiritual principles that you're learning about. Perhaps you're reading some esoteric texts about the philosophy of life. And you'll get one full moon in this house every year, Aquarius, and this is your full moon. And perhaps it could bring about an opportunity to travel, or a celebration of travel, or celebration of connection with other cultures, or adventure, and some work with higher learning, because the 9th house can also be about higher learning, like university learning. All right. At the same time, Jupiter is in your 6th house, and that's been bringing luck and blessings to the house of how you give service in the world and your daily work and routines in the world, and that will be there until the end of June. And it's square to the full moon. It's bringing blessings and optimism and opportunities, perhaps through your work, that could help you out with the travel opportunities, perhaps, that are in your 9th house, or connections with other cultures through your work. Just be careful not to overdo it. Perhaps I wrote a note here that you could perhaps get carried away with a work project a little bit too much, and because it's inspiring you and making you feel like you understand more about the meaning of life, or connecting with other cultures, or the travel opportunities. So just don't get too carried away, but mostly just enjoy it. And all the best for that, Aquarius. It's this culmination point with partnership and social connection that is really helping you with travel opportunities, higher learning, and understanding the meaning of life. So please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Pisces, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Pisces Rising, on Wednesday the 1st or Thursday the 2nd of April, there's a full moon at 12 degrees of Libra, and this Pisces is in your 8th house. This is the house of your partner's money, shared resources with your partner, or large amounts of money that you have something to do with in your life, but you don't have ready access to it. For example, inheritances, retirement savings, investments. Okay, so there's some kind of culmination point in this area where you're looking maybe with your partner at your resources and thinking how you could share them. All right, so you could be talking together, being diplomatic together, negotiating and working things out in a really positive way. Okay, Jupiter is in your 5th house, and bringing expansion, opportunities, and generosity from there. The 5th house is about your children, romantic life, and it's also about hobbies. So there's some way that this is playing in. Perhaps you're finding it rather romantic to have these negotiations about how you share your resources with your partner. Perhaps you're talking together about your wills and how you will, like if either of you did die, unfortunately, before the other, which I guess it always happens, so it's not really unfortunate. Perhaps you're talking about what you would leave for your partner, and there's some aspect of that you find romantic. Or perhaps you're thinking about what you might negotiating with your partner how much money you'll give your children. Just be careful not to get a little bit carried away with the romance and the kids, and don't give them too much because Jupiter in that square aspect to the full moon might get just a little bit over generous and over optimistic about it. All right. So I think that's all I've got to say about it. Mostly this is some kind of culmination point. The eighth house is also about occult matters like divination and going down deep into the underlying esoteric layers of things. So this could be some kind of culmination point there or some revelation there. And the eighth house is also about your deep underlying psychological layers. So there could be some understanding to happen there. I'm like you, Pisces. I'm a Pisces as well. So I'm interested to see what this is all about. And mostly it's going to be kind of cool to have a full moon there. Also, if you do have a partner, the eighth house is about deep intimacy, and it might be really learning about the underlying layers of each other and your partner. Okay, so all the best for that, Pisces, and please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video. So if you are Aries, Sun, Moon or Rising on Wednesday the 1st or Thursday the 2nd of April 2026, we have a full moon in the sign of Libra at 12 degrees. So the moon is in the sign of Libra and the sun is in the opposite sign of Aries. That is you guys. You've got a lot of energy, Aries, at the moment because you've got the sun there and you've had Venus go through and Mercury and Mars going through, and you've got the big players, Saturn and Neptune. So much is changing about your whole life, Aries, and you guys like to really go and initiate new things anyway and face challenges head on and not think too much. You are very direct and you get this gut instinct and you're ready to go and do the changes. And there's a whole lot of energy with these slow-moving Saturn and Neptune and their conjunction for big change in your life. What is that change that you're noticing, Aries? Please write in the comments because this is such an incredible time for you. It could also be a time of challenge and facing resistance with Saturn there and confusion with Neptune there. And just change can be hard anyway to the degree that I expect you're experiencing it. The full moon in the sign of Libra is going to help you to remember about partnership and diplomacy because that is your 7th house of partnership, especially one-to-one relationships. Whether this is with a life partner or with somebody that you work with in a one-to-one way, like a business partner or a client relationship that you have, or anybody that you're spending time with and doing a lot with on a one-to-one basis. So there's some kind of culmination point there, a full moment, some social connection. Don't stay at home too much, Aries. Go out and connect with people. It doesn't have to be a big party because this is more about the one-to-one thing for you. At the same time, Jupiter, exalted, is in your 4th house of home and family of origin. It's there for a year. It recently turned direct. It is bringing abundance and generosity and change to your home. And this can be your family of origin. It can be just the place that you live or properties that you own or people that you live with. Okay, so there could be some kind of energy of generosity and expansion, especially with the full moon with your home, but take care not to overdo it too much. Here is an example. I thought perhaps you're trying to please your partner so much that you spend all your time decorating the home and making it really nice, and in the end you end up meeting your partner in town instead and not even at your house. I don't know. But in general, like that Jupiter energy is going to help a lot. So the home and the partnership, there's going to be some kind of connection with that full moon and with you, Aries, where the sun is. So all the best for that, and please like, comment or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Taurus, Sun, Moon or Rising, on Wednesday the 1st or Thursday the 2nd of April, there is a full moon in the sign of Libra with a culmination point for you in your 6th house of your work, your daily work, like where you sit at your desk and you do your daily tasks at work, or whether you're going out and visiting and making house calls, whatever you do, those tasks of daily life, or something to do with your workmates. And also the 6th house is about your routines for health and exercise and diet and your life admin, how you keep your life in order. So there's a culmination point with any of these areas, and maybe something is revealed that you weren't aware of. There's a peak moment, and maybe an ending as well. Okay. I encourage you to make the most of one-to-one connections in the workplace at the time of this full moon. There could be some benefits to that. And also where you've got any neighborly connections, and that's because Jupiter is in your 3rd house of your neighborhood. Actually, the 3rd house is also your siblings, so something could happen with your there could be some energy from your siblings or other relations in your extended family that help you out with whatever's going on in your workplace, or where you give service in the world in practical ways. Okay, and I had some little examples about this, so I'm just going to read those. So perhaps you are getting into one part of your job, might be to do with marketing or promotion. That's a very 3rd house thing. And so there's an expansion of that. That's a really useful task in your workplace, and maybe you're getting respect for it and working well in partnership with somebody. But maybe you focus on the marketing side of it a little bit too much, like you spend too long making that really cool poster ad or something like that. Um, you might decide that you want to do some commuting, because that's a 3rd house thing, to be traveling around your neighborhood, and that's because the 6th house is to do with health. All right, so that commuting could help with your healthy routines. Um, yeah, and you might also, with that 3rd house energy, you might focus a lot on learning, but maybe it takes a little bit away from doing that work that you need to do, because the 3rd house is about learning, but mostly this full moon is about your 6th house and what you need, and a culmination point in how you give work and service in the world. So all the best for that, Taurus, and please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Gemini, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Gemini Rising, on Wednesday the 1st or Thursday the 2nd of April, you have a full moon in the sign of Libra, and that is your 5th house. That is lovely, Gemini. You can go out and socialize and go on some dates, because this is the house of romance. You might meet somebody that is interesting. It's also the house of your children. And so you might have a playful and fun time with your children at the time of the full moon. And the 5th house is also about hobbies. So maybe you are getting out into the world, connecting with people in a way that's involving your hobbies, the things that you do because you love to do them and you have fun doing them. So that's very nice, Gemini. Also, Jupiter is in your 2nd house, and it's there for a year. It's expanding your money, your finances, your ability to earn your income and wealth and resources, and that could play in here. So I did some little examples. Perhaps you are prepared to spend some money on your hobbies, spend some money on your children, spend some money on your romantic life. Just be careful not to spend too much. Um, Maybe, for example, okay, so the 2nd house is also about your values and what you value in life and how you prioritize your values. And my little example was, maybe you're going on a dating app, which could be a good thing to do at this time, and you're writing a profile for yourself, and you spend so much time writing about what you value and believe in the world that you just don't actually get that profile up and running, and maybe there's other things to focus on. Maybe a more light-hearted approach might be good, but I think mostly this is a pretty light-hearted full moon for you, and it could involve some fun and lovely kind of romantic and playful connections, Gemini. So all the best for that, and please like, comment or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Cancer, Sun, Moon or Rising, but especially Cancer Rising, on Wednesday the 1st or Thursday the 2nd of April, there is a full moon at 12 degrees of Libra in your 4th house of home and family and ancestry and family of origin, your roots. In Cancer, you understand this. You've got this energy of understanding that private and original part of our lives, the ancestral background and all of that. So you get this, and there's a culmination point in this part of your chart, a peak moment, peak energy, and perhaps you have a little party in your home or something like that. And perhaps something is revealed by the light of the moon, and even something could come to an end with this, all right? It's a good time to be thinking about partnership and diplomacy in your home with this full moon. And from you, Cancer, you have Jupiter in your 1st house, and Jupiter is square the full moon, so it's blessing the full moon, but also perhaps bringing a tendency to overdo it. And it could be something like, so because Jupiter is in your 1st house of you, Cancer, so you're having, I hope, a lovely year of expansion and growth of your soul, and your expression and generosity and ability to grow and be all that you are in the world. Sorry, plant. So that is happening for you over the year until June. It's then Jupiter will move into the sign of Leo, but that Jupiter in your 1st house, Cancer, is square to that 4th house, and that could mean something like you have a party in your home, like you invite your friends around for a dinner party, or you host something for your family, and you get a little too carried away with it, like you make it perhaps a little bit all about you, and you don't. The full moon should encourage you to be diplomatic about it, but Jupiter in that 1st house of you might be just getting all these really big ideas and you get a bit carried away with them, and it might be a good idea to maybe rein it in, talk to the others, see what they want and make sure it works for everybody. Maybe you just eat too much. It might just be about that. What else did I say? Maybe maybe you're at the family party and you just kind of talk too much or eat too much, buy too much food, get overly generous. So be careful of all of that. But mostly this could be really lovely for connecting with family of origin, your grandparents even, going back in time with where you come from, thinking about your ancestry. So all the best for that, Cancer, and please like, comment or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Leo, Sun, Moon or Rising, but especially Leo Rising, on Wednesday the 1st or Thursday the 2nd of April, there is a full moon at 12 degrees of Libra, and this is in your 3rd house of your neighborhood and family connections that are like your siblings or nieces, nephews, aunties, uncles, cousins, things like that. But community and neighborhood, also teaching and learning, that happens in the 3rd house, community learning, your commute around your neighborhood, social media, small business, trade and exchange. There is a lot in the 3rd house. Anyway, there's some kind of culmination point with the full moon, and this could be anything involving partnership or one-to-one connections, perhaps some talks that you have with your neighbor over the fence. Perhaps finally, after talking for a few years, your neighbor actually invites you in for a cup of tea and you get to know each other in a deeper way, okay, because of that one-to-one connection that comes with Libra, okay. There's an opportunity for diplomacy and social connection. This kind of connection could happen with some of your family members that it was mentioning. And from your 12th house, that is where Jupiter is at the moment. So that is expanding your behind the scenes private life, your spiritual life, how you escape from the world or retreat from the world, or also even foreign travel. And it could be that in your neighborhood, because of this connection, you might meet people from far away overseas that are living in your neighborhood, and you get that benefit with it. There might even be something where in that life of your retreat or your life of your dreams and your escapism from the world, which can be very much about creative and spiritual connection, not in a way that you're going to show the world, but in a way that is kind of private to you, and it can help your understanding about your place in the universe. You might start up some conversations with your neighbors about these kind of esoteric topics, and that could be expansive and very interesting for you. Be careful not to maybe talk too much about these topics if your neighbor or whoever you're talking to isn't so interested. That could, because with the Jupiter square, there could be an energy of going a little bit too far, but there could be some areas of real interest there. So all the best for that, Leo. Mostly this is about some kind of culmination point, maybe a neighborhood party, maybe a party with your siblings, or a get together with your siblings, or some kind of connection in your third house. So please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video and enjoy the fun. If you are Virgo, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Virgo Rising, on Wednesday the 1st or Thursday the 2nd of April, there's a full moon in the sign of Libra, Virgo, and that is your second house. So there's a culmination point or a peak moment in something to do with your finances or resources. Something could be revealed that you weren't aware of, and there could even be some money coming your way, or a position or a resource coming your way. There's a sense of expansion and generosity coming from your 11th house of friendship groups and long-term goals, because Jupiter is in that 11th house and it's square to the moon. It's lending generosity and expansiveness. So the 11th house, as well as friendship groups and long-term goals, that's also to do with rewards from work. So perhaps there could be some money coming through a job that you have, especially more of a career job that you have. And it could be that because of the friendship groups and the groups that you belong to, or organizations of people that you belong to, you're thinking more about your possessions and how you want to spend your money. Maybe you start spending your money in a different way. Maybe you start belonging to a club that does some kind of hobby, and so therefore you decide to spend money on some equipment that helps you to do this hobby. Because this energy of expansion might go a little bit far, just make sure you don't spend too much money on whatever it is. Okay, so all the best for that, Virgo. Mostly this is about a culmination point or a peak moment, and maybe an ending as well in your second house of your income and your money. And please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video, and I hope there's some in abundance for you. So there we go, everybody. That is the all signs breakdown about the full moon in Libra that we have coming up in the middle of the week. I encourage you, and I plan to do this with that full moon and that energy of diplomacy and peace and charm and negotiation, to send out those vibes to the world, to be sending out, instead of sending out the vibe of against the conflict or upset about the conflict or worried about the conflicts in the world, that instead we're sending out the energy of harmony and diplomacy and the willingness to partnership in positive and supportive ways, and bringing in, that's the Libra energy, peace and charm even, and then bringing in the Jupiter energy that's playing in with this full moon, also justice, social justice, and this goes with Libra as well, and the desire that everybody is getting what they need. So send out those vibes. I encourage you, and I understand that I know Pam Gregory talks about meditations that happen at 7 p.m. UK time on Sundays. In New Zealand at the moment, that's 7 a.m. or whatever time it is in the world. I might jump in on one of those and just sit down and send out those vibes for a few minutes while I'm getting ready for work in the morning on, whatever time it is in the world, but UK time it's Sunday evening at 7 p.m. So all the best for the week, everyone. Enjoy that full moon in Libra.